Hello, this is Georgie Dragonfly. Welcome to Cosmic Heart Conversations podcast, where you're joined with me and Markus 𝗠𝗿𝗂𝘂𝘁𝗵𝘂, who's now going to welcome his beautiful energy into this space and share his story today. Welcome, Markus.
Thank you, Georgie. Nice to be here. I'm sure the people don't know this is, I think this is the fourth time we're doing this. Yeah. We've had a few hiccups along the way, but hopefully it works out today. Okay, so what do? Introduce myself.
Yes.
Okay. So Georgie's already given my name. Thank you. You've done it well. Where do I start? I started my journey about 30 years ago, so it's a long time ago, and initially started off with crystal healing. As a child, our parents used to take us to pick up crystals and gemstones, and so we just always had crystals around. And then about 30 years ago, I found a book on crystal healing and then started studying that, and then found a mentor and then another mentor. And it wasn't long, and then I went beyond the mentors and I actually became their mentors. So it was quite an interesting shift in dynamic. And then from that, I just carried on studying. So I've been studying aura healing and herbalism, Reiki, massage, shiatsu, kinesiology, and the list just goes on. I have to look at my list sometimes to see what I've done. So it's just been a lifelong journey for me. When it comes to light language, when I learned aura healing, this is also about 30 odd years ago. My mentor would say, this is how you do your hands, this is what you need to do, and this is what you need to focus on. And I would always find myself go, so my hands are like that, and then halfway through they start doing these funny things and they start going crazy, and I go, what is happening? But my mentor didn't say anything, so I just went like, okay, well, they're just doing something. So initially I thought I was just pulling things out of the person's auric field. So as the psychic side developed, then I realized, yeah, sometimes I do pull things out, but other times I'm actually putting things into the field. And then I think it was 2004, maybe, yeah, I think maybe 2003 or somewhere there, I sat down with the intent to meet my angel guide that I have seen since ever since I could remember. I decided I need to sit down and meditate with her and get who she is, what she's all about, and yeah, work with that, because I always just saw her in the background standing watching over me. And sat down and I thought, okay, I've got no expectations, but I'm going to try this. And I had a beautiful meditation, met up with her, and I asked her what her name was. And I heard this massive sound that sounds like a million trumpets and wind instruments and things going off, making a sound. And I was like, and at the same time, a symbol flew at me. And I was like, okay, I can't pronounce that. Can you give me something I can pronounce? And she gave me a name, Ariel. And I still, during that meditation, I still sort of rolled my eyes and went like, Ariel, really? Like, I've been watching Little Mermaids too many times or something. So I was like, can I really take this serious? And I was like, okay, I'll take that, but whatever. And I wrote down the symbol as soon as the meditation was over. And I kept asking her, what does this symbol mean? What is this all about? Is this your name? And she just kept saying, work with the symbol, work with the symbol, work with the symbol. So it's like, okay. It took about 10 years of working with the symbol before it unlocked my ability to scribe or write light language. And it's only once I started scribing, I went like, oh, okay, I get what the symbol was all about now. But it took 10 years. It was quite a journey. And so once I started scribing, then I realized, oh, okay, wait a minute. Now it makes sense. All this movements I'm doing with my hands while I'm working, that's actually doing light scribing in the people's energy fields and activating codes and putting the information into the field to raise their frequencies of vibration. So then it was another few years later, I think 2 or 3 years later. No, actually it was quite soon after that. Then I started speaking as well. And at first it was like just whispering and quietly speaking, like I don't know what I'm saying. And just with working and repeating and yeah, all of that, it became more comfortable. But it does come in different waves. So sometimes the language will sound different. And initially that was sort of like, no, it's supposed to sound the same or every time, but it doesn't. And so working with the light codes, I've been actively putting them out into the world. I think in 2014 was the first time I sent a written light code out to someone and said, here's a light code for you. And it was on a light language group that I belong to on Facebook. And I just received this message and I was told who to give it to. And I was offline, so I had no idea I don't know who the people are in the group, because I don't know their names. And I was given this code and I was given the name of the person to give it to. And I went like, I don't even know if there's a person like that on the group. So I went onto the group, found the person in the list and went like, okay, there's a person like this on the group. This is getting weird. And I just gave her the light code. And then after that, I posted another one on the light language group, just sort of like, here's a light code. What do you guys think? Type thing. I think we all do that in the beginning. Yeah. Like, tell me what you feel from this. So I posted that. And then I thought, okay, no, this is a little bit like, it's a bit weak, like to just post something on and say, what do you guys think? I need to be able to tune in and tap in and find what they're all about. So I did a little experiment on another group that I was on, not a light language group, just a normal group with like psychic development and things like that. And I said to the people, I'm going to channel through for 10 lucky people a light code that's specific for you. So who wants light code? Put your name in the comments. And I ended up doing 60 light codes. Wow. So I was just going to do 10. And then when I got started, I couldn't stop. And I just ended up doing 60 people on the list. And each person's code looked different. And I literally just did it on these little squares of paper. I just grabbed them and with a pen, scribbled them on there, and gave each person their code. And the feedback I got back was actually quite great. People really connected with their symbols. And then that was like, okay, there's something here. So then I started delving deeper in, and that's why I started deciding I need to actually meet more people who's doing light language and who's working with this. But I felt I needed to have a foot in the door first. And so I decided I'm going to sit down and do a proper, intricate, first time light code that I'm going to proudly put out there and say, here's my big light code that's focused on something. And it was a rainy day and I sat down just not knowing what to expect. And the first shape that came up was like a water drop shape. And then it started filling in and the entire thing was filled in with writing. And as I'm writing, I'm like, oh, what is all of this about? And my guide Ariel said to me, this is the code for abundance. So it was quite a big code. And I then opened up an Instagram profile, posted that one on there, and the rest is history. So it just kept flowing from there.
Yeah.
So the first one, once I had that on Instagram, then I started meeting a lot more people. So I started following a lot of people who do light language, connecting with like minds, and actually made some really good friends along the way. And then started later on, once I really knew what I was doing, then I started teaching workshops and getting more of the information out there.
Wonderful.
So that's me in not a so little nutshell.
Well, I think for a lot of people, they don't know where to start and how to develop that. So it's interesting that, you had one symbol and you just was very patient working with this symbol to allow it to develop, and actually it was an unlocking of the light language. So is this a symbol that you still use today? Do you help others with that one?
And I place a symbol on some of my light codes. It almost like becomes a signature now. So that is, I sometimes forget to put it on, but I guess when you forget to put it on, it's not meant to be on that specific code. So you'll see on some of the codes, the symbol is sitting somewhere in a corner or something of the artwork. But it wasn't always so patient because I would work with a symbol and then go, come on, Ariel, like really tell me what this is about. And she would just stand there and say, work with a symbol. And I go like, tell me that. So it can be quite frustrating sometimes. And sometimes I would just shelve and say, just forget about this thing. But it always kept popping up. And so you have no choice. You just do it. You just work with it. But it's the same goes with the light language. Usually when I sit down to do a code, I've got a clear intention in mind. So let's say I'm going to do a code for abundance, or I'm going to do a code for grief, or for health, or for whatever. I normally have a clear intention. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to, this is what I'm going to channel through. But there are times when this sort of urge comes over you, or this energy comes over you, and you just go like, I need to get to a computer now, because I do all of my stuff on the computer or on the iPad. I can do it on paper, but I prefer the crisp cleanness of the digital art. And so you just start working, and then sometimes you usually quite complex things. And as I'm working, I go, Ariel, tell me what this is about. What's going on over here? And she says, shh, just write. And so many times as I'm receiving some of these codes, I don't even know what it is. And then I keep going, what is this? Tell me what this is all about. And she just goes, write, keep writing. And then when it's done and I sort of sit back and I can soak up the full image, then the download comes of what it's all about. And then I guess in cases like that, I needed to receive the activation first so that I could bring the activation through for others. So sometimes we know what we're doing and sometimes we don't.
Yeah. And did you find at first that it was just like streams?
Yeah, initially it was just sort of writing and scribbling. I've always been doodling because, so I always had a book with me where I can doodle or scribble in. But my doodles tended to be quite geometric and structured. And I always felt there was something in the doodles, but I didn't know what was in them. And there would be times when certain specific shapes would keep repeating, spirals would keep repeating, or circles would keep repeating, or squares. And I would have like pages and pages full of these doodles. Sometimes in my, like I would have like I'm studying a course or something, and then my notes are full of doodles and energy, and sometimes I had no idea what it was. When I started sort of more consciously scribing the light codes, then my course notes were full of light language scribbles. So for me, that was like me absorbing information and then putting that down and getting an extra layer of activation while studying, because my life is endless study. keep going, another course.
Yeah, but it's good that you have the balance of, of you're getting stuff that's just literally coming through you. I mean, for someone that actually has done a lot of self-development and a lot of courses and training, to then have this come through and not even doubt it and think, oh, because where does this come from? There's no rule book that tells you how to do this.
There's no rule book. Yeah, but also that was part of the journey. My intuition's always been very strong, but I never really listened to it. So as a youngster, I would hear intuition go and then go like, no, I'm doing it this way because I'm Aries. Aries wants to do it their own way. And somewhere in, I think it was early 2000s, must have been maybe 2001 or somewhere there. I was going for a job interview, and because I used to be in corporate at some stage in my life way back, not anymore, I left corporate ages ago, but I was on my way to a job interview and I got to a tricky four-way stop, and it was peak hour traffic, and there were just cars everywhere. And as I got to the stop, I got very clear instructions: do not cross the road. And I literally needed to be on the other side of the road. My instructions that I got in my head was turn left, go up 2 blocks, turn left again, make a U-turn at the third house, and then come back at the stop, then turn right again, and then you turn left into the road where you need to be. And I got all of that. I thought to myself, what? No, like, why am I going to do all of that to just get there? So now I'm waiting for my gap to see when I can cross the road, and it's not coming. So I inched a little bit forward because now cars are piling up on the one side because the one car wanted to turn in. It was quite complex, but anyway, so I sort of looked around, and the next moment, another car overtook the one that was standing waiting to turn, and he made quite a big wave into the other side of the road and then swerved back in, and he went straight into my car, and my car was a write-off.
Wow.
So I just actually sat in the car while this car's like spinning, flying, and I just burst out laughing because I'm like, I got clear instructions on what to do, and I said no. And this is where it gets me. So when I got out of the car, I said to myself, I will never, ever, ever question intuition ever again. If intuition says do something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it without question. And so that's how I just live life. So if intuition pops up and it says I must do something, I do it. And so people who drive with me already know, like if we could be driving to a specific location and all of a sudden I turned down another road, they don't even ask me why are we turning down here anymore. So I always follow where I have to go, and I trust that I'm at the place where I need to be. So
Yeah.
same with the writing. I'm just like, I don't question what comes through. Someone I do question, but I continue writing, but I do go like out of curiosity, like what am I writing? What is this all about?
More for an understanding than
Yeah.
than querying like if it's a good thing or
No,
not.
no, it's curiosity. It's more curiosity. I want
Yeah.
to know. I want to know every detail.
And before I move on with another question, just was everyone all right
Where
after
in
the
the
accident?
what? The accident,
Yeah.
there was no injuries except for my car and my intuitive ego. So yeah, the other guy who drove into me, his car was actually fine. He had a small dent in the front of his car. So I still don't understand how the whole thing happened, because I've gone back to the site where it happened and sort of looked at how did this actually happen? How did this person overtake? Because there was not really space to do that. And he had quite a big car. So it's still a puzzle, but yeah. When I remember when the car hits me, I heard all these little school kids laughing. It's high-pitched little kid laughter, because there's a school just on the corner, and they were just laughing, screeching with laughter. And I started laughing at this whole stupid scenario of me not listening to my intuition.
Yeah, it's kind of like how far do you want it to be pushed till you're going to listen?
Well, that's it. I mean, the whole time your guides are giving you intuitive ideas and thoughts and concepts, and you keep saying, oh, no, I can't do that, I can't do that. And at some point, they're just going to smack you sideways and say, well, if you don't want to listen, you've got to feel. So, yeah, I took that as my little wake-up call, and that was it. I trust
Yeah,
intuition.
that's good. I mean, I know a lot of people that have had the near-death experiences, and it always seems to be that they were in just such a different direction that they really needed that, and it sounds really harsh, but if you've got a strong soul path that you're meant to be on, then you've got to listen to that, haven't you? And
Got to listen to it.
yeah.
The problem is people don't always know where to or how to listen or how to respond to what they receive. So I mean, that should be taught at school, how to trust your intuition.
And establishing your own energy, and I suppose even getting into
Boundaries,
your guides,
how to meet your guides. And yeah, now we need to learn all of those things in school. I think schooling would be very different, or the earth would be a different place if we did that.
Yeah, I think people would be different. Everything would be.
Yeah, no, it would be really nice that way.
Yeah, it would. Oh. So again, because again with your guide as well, because that was seemed to be something that you really established at such an early age as well. I think that's amazing. And that was just a knowing. Was that for you?
No, I was ever since I can remember, I could see ghosts and spirits and things. I didn't realize that I was seeing something that other people couldn't see. So I would see these things and I would see them broad daylight. I would be wide awake. And it's only at the age of 5 where the penny dropped the one day where I saw Ariel standing in the background watching over me. And I thought, she's always got the same dress on. That was my first thing. And then I thought, and I started looking around, there was a lot of people around. I started looking around and went like, something strange. Like no other people that I know, other than on TV maybe, have lion faces. Like she's a woman, like a normal woman, but she's got the face of a lioness. And I thought something's actually weird there, because I could see her as a solid being standing there. It was not like a hazy, shadowy, ghostly image. It was like a real person standing there. And she's always at a distance, and I always see her, and it's always like she's watching over me. And I thought, wait a minute, that's quite weird, because no one else has lion faces. So there's something different with this woman standing there. But that was sort of the first time I realized, okay, something's a little bit different. I would explain and talk about the colors that I see around people, and no one seemed to know what I'm talking about. So around that age, I sort of went, I think other people can't see this, but I didn't really have the words or the explanation of how to bring it through. It was at age 7 where I started realizing, well, okay, people are definitely not seeing and feeling all of these things. Because then I started realizing that I feel other people's emotions. But again, I didn't really have a context for it. I didn't understand what it meant. I would feel something, and someone would confirm that they feel that. And then I would go, and it kept happening. And for me, emotions was just hard. It was I couldn't understand how anybody could live with so many emotions. And looking back now, I realized that it wasn't just my emotions, it was everybody else's emotions around. And I was trying to carry all of that and process it, but without knowing that it wasn't mine to process. So as a 7-year-old, it was like, what's going on over here? So by the time I got to age 12 and I started learning about chakras and crystals and things like that, I then realized, okay, I'm actually picking up on other people's emotions. I still don't know how to work with it. I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to get rid of it. And it took a lot of work to actually get through there. So guides, angels, one of those things I've always seen. So I've worked with them, but it took me years to really connect properly and to really assimilate and work directly with them, because before it was always just sort of in the distance over there. So, and back then there wasn't really many books. There's no YouTube, there's no internet. So you guys are very lucky now. So we had to learn the hard way and the long way around. So nowadays there's so many books on the topics. There's YouTube channels, there's podcasts, there's many places where we can learn. But back then it was a little bit harder.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I remember having books, and we had a crystal shop, and I used to always go to the crystal shop and pick up some crystals and convince my mum about, but this book. It's like, but you're not going to be able to read this book. I'm like, but you have it and you can read it to me, you know?
That's the way.
Yeah. So that's great. So then you really developed a lot with that, and so then it gives you a really good understanding of the light language that then starts to come in. And you mentioned earlier as well about different dialects and things like
Yes.
that were coming in. So do you have like a nice established understanding of those, and how did that develop?
For me, I'm a visual person, so the written aspect, the scribing for me is really my strength. And initially when I started writing or scribing, it was Ariel standing right behind me and guiding that process. And so all of my first initial light codes that I have, apart from the sort of the demos that I did for the clients or for the people in the group, all of those initial ones have a very similar script that you can see that the script looks the same and has a specific structure to it. And so that structure or that script for me is angelic language, so working directly with the angels. And then when I bring through things like the Arcturians, Andromedans, or Syrians, or whatever, the scripts are very different. So it's each of the scribing is different. And it's interesting as well, because I'll look through Instagram to other people who's also doing light language, and I go, that looks like my code, that looks like my code. And it's like we've got different structures, and you can actually see when we all channel through a similar dialect or a similar language, if you want to call it that. And it's people who may not necessarily even know each other. So I've come across so many pages where there's people writing in the same way or shape and presents it in the same way, even though they're not connected. And so that for me is confirmation that we are bringing through something like a real energy that has a feel or specific feel or structure to it. And I mean, everything's vibration at the end of the day. And so we're using our pencils and pens and styluses and whatever, trackpads, to tune into a frequency or a vibration, and we're following those waves and those patterns, and we're actually putting it onto paper and onto screen. So wherever we're tuning into, we're going to get a different structure or a pattern coming through. And so the more you work with it, the more you get familiar with whether something's angelic or starseed origin, or whether it's maybe an ancient language, because we've got those coming through as well. So yeah, you get used to them.
And would you say that these are like multidimensional aspects of you as well? Do you feel that's a perspective, because you speak of your guides, and you see your guide as well as an aspect of you?
Yeah, sometimes, I mean, I don't know, I still see my guides as almost separate of me. Probably they are part of me, I don't know. But we are multidimensional beings, and I believe that we exist in all these different planes stacked on top of each other. Maybe not even on top, it may be sideways, but we are in multiple realities all at the same time. And I think our 3D minds are struggling with that concept, but if you go into meditation with that, and you go and you do some quantum meditation where you go into the atomic level, and the atom or the structure of the atom becomes planets and suns and stuff, and then you go into those to experience another life form there, to go into the atoms and protons and neutrons, whatever, and that's to become another planet, and then reverse all of that out. That's the type of meditation I used to do when I was 12. When you do things like that, it does expand the mind, and you go like, and you can't really take this one little planet seriously. Well, yeah, we have to have a bit of fun. I think that's the Arcturians coming through, because Arcturians always love having fun, and they can joke and laugh about everything, even though they are quite serious about the work that they do. So that's that nature. I think we have to have fun while doing that, but we're definitely multidimensional, and we have the capability to tap into different aspects, past lives, future lives, past lives on other planets, and all of those. We have access to that. And I think that with some training, maybe some practice, you can do that. And just as an example, when I studied crystal healing, I felt that obviously we didn't have books then. I think I had 3 books on crystal healing back then. I now have 30. But I could find 3 books, and they were very basic. And then I had my 2 mentors that I worked with, and I just felt that there was more to the work than what it was presented. And during that time, I started having dreams of Atlantis, and it was very, very clear, vivid dreams where I could recall everything. Now, for people who know me would know, I always say I don't dream. So I don't really remember my dreams, but when I do have a dream and I remember it, there's some significance, and there's information there, and there's usually huge learning for me there. And so I had these really vivid dreams about Atlantis, and it was every single night. And the one day I was walking in a shop, and I saw this lady, and I saw her, and I just knew that I knew her from somewhere. And she looked at me, and we both said at the same time, "I know you from somewhere." And she was busy helping a customer, and the customer was like, sort of like, "What's going on over here?" And I said, "No, never mind. You finish there. We'll chat soon." And I was just browsing through the shop, and then the lady left, and I went up to this woman, and we looked at each other again, and we said at the same time, "I know you from Atlantis." And then it was like, "Wait a minute, how did we say that? Where does that come from?" And then I just said to her, "Have you been having any dreams?" And she said, "Yeah, she's been having dreams about Atlantis." I went like, "Me too." And we started comparing dreams, and we were actually dreaming the same things, or parts of similar dreams. where she could start a sentence and I could actually finish the sentence and give all the descriptions of everything that I saw. So very, very clear, vivid dreams. Those dreams I then later on took further and went into meditation with them and more consciously went into the space. And then one day while I was doing a crystal healing session, I got to a point where I felt stuck. I was like, I don't know what crystal to go here. I know something must go here. And I was thinking, I'm gonna have to meditate on this one at some point and just maybe find what this is all about. And while I was busy with the client, I thought to myself, I wonder if I can maybe just consciously now go into Atlantis and go check with my other self there, because I've done this in meditation before. So I just sort of closed my eyes while client's lying there with packed full of crystals, closed my eyes and found myself back in Atlantis, went to go see my other self there. And I found all the information that I needed regarding the crystal to use, why to use it there, how to use it, the whole story. And I came back and I could do that. It was like, wow, that was really quick and easy. So that's something that I, to this day, still do. I've just learned to do it a little bit faster these days, where I can work with a client and I can go, oh, something is needed here, and I can zip over to Atlantis very quickly, find some information, and come back and to put it down and carry on. So I think that you can develop that. Well, I know that you can develop that. I've done it myself. So with a bit of practice, with some dedication, you can do it for yourself as well, for any of your past lives, really.
Yeah. And so have there been any other lifetimes that you specifically, quite predominantly use even in your work?
Yeah, lots and lots of energy around Egypt, ancient Egypt. I went as far as studying hieroglyphics. This is years ago as well. So studying hieroglyphics, I then, to get an understanding of the language, you've got to go into the mythology. And when you go into the mythology, you've got to go into the religion. And when you go into the religion, you've got to go deeper into everything else. And so it was many years of studying that. And so I've got a very, very strong connection with Egypt. A lot of people that I know in my life have been with me in Egypt as priests or priestesses. So very strong connections there. And a lot of connections with Andromeda. That's home. So also very vivid experiences of what life is like there and all of that. And I do a lot of work with Arcturians as well in the work that I do. So past lives, I think the first past life that I had that was sort of, no, actually, the first one that I consciously experienced, where I really woke up to, okay, past lives are real, because I always believed in it, but I needed that little slap on the side of the head just to really anchor it in, was an experience when I was at college where I remembered a past life where I was in America, and my wife had fallen off a mountain and died. So I recognized her, and then also someone came to help. But that was sort of a really big shakeup for me when I remembered that. And it was shortly after that when the Atlantis dream started coming and all of that. So I think that was my first sort of introduction to past lives. It's long before any books on the topic. Now we've got Many Masters, Many Lives, or Many Lives, Many Masters. I don't know if you've read that book.
No.
Dr. Brian Weiss. Very good book to read.
Sounds good.
And also the Michael Newton books, Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls. Got to read those.
Yeah, they sound good.
We didn't have any of those. So I had to go through the experiences myself there again. But that was really for me a wake up as to, okay, past lives are actually real. And that made me also question more and sort of go deeper into that. But at the same time, I always felt cautious because I understood that my consciousness is here right now. My consciousness is choosing to be in this life right now. And so any of the past lives, future lives, parallel lives, off-planet lives, all of those things are real, but my consciousness right now is right here. And I think that it's very easy to get caught up in other lives as a form of distraction or avoidance of this life. If you get deeply into the past life regression stuff, which I know some people do, they continuously go into past lives to try and escape being here. And I was always very aware of that, almost like that you could escape into past life. And so I always felt it very important to bring myself back to the here and now, because this is where my consciousness is. I'm very happy if my consciousness goes somewhere else. If I'm supposed to focus somewhere else in another life, I will go. But it is important to be grounded and rooted in where your consciousness is right now.
Yeah, it's good to like have the understanding and like you do, getting those teachings and being able to bring them back in to this experience, but not getting lost in it.
It is quite fun, I have to say. I mean, I guess I always just look at my life and think, oh, I'm just going to play an old, normal, boring life. But when I talk about it and then I sort of think about it, and I go, wait a minute, actually, this is sort of not normal for most people. So there's quite a bit happening in my life that I consider normal, but then when I think about it, it's like, oh, it's like, no, it's not quite. And I guess you get used to your life. Same as going to a restaurant and reading a menu. I pick up the menu and I go, okay, I'm having that. And then people go, but you haven't read the whole menu. I said, yes, I have. They go, but there's 3 pages. And I go, yeah, but I'm vegetarian. So I just look for the little V's and there's four options. So I can choose one of the 4 options. So I don't see the rest of the menu. So we can filter out what we don't need. And the same way we can go to a past life and we can grab something and pull it back here when we can need it as well. So where your focus lies is really where you go as well. So it's also why it's important to come back here in the now and be grounded, because it can be very easy to be floaty up there and not ground or embody your teachings or learnings or energy that you brought through.
Yeah. And with healing as well, like we spend a lot of time healing those other lives and things like that and I've been faulty of that, getting a bit overly focused on a specific lifetime and trying to sort that out.
And
I'm
here's
not
the
really
thing. I mean, if
present.
you heal this body, it has a ripple effect. It goes out into all of the other bodies. And so usually when I work, even with aura healing, when I do that, I'm working on the client who asked me to work on them, but I know that, and I bring these energies in at the beginning of the work, where we bring in the higher self and the monad and 144 soul extensions, which then codes out into the soul clusters and everything. So even though I'm working on one person, that is also healing aspects of all of the other bodies and all of the other lives. So again, if you focus on yourself, you will also heal all the other past lives and their issues. But it's powerful to go to the past lives and do some healing there, or even to go into your own past and to do healing there.
So it's just going with what's in your intuition, what's needed.
Follow intuition.
Yeah.
Always. I like structure. I'm a bit of a structure freak, so I want everything to be organized and I need to have a structure to follow. But at the same time, within that structure, I've got a lot of freedom to move.
Right.
So yeah, for me, if you see my therapy room, you'll see the crystals are in boxes with little drawers and they are alphabetically organized. So it's very structured. But I need to be able to obviously flick open a drawer at any moment and grab what I need. Whereas initially when I started, I had the crystals lying all over the place, and that's not working, because now I'm looking for a specific crystal and it was here before, but oh, now it's over there. So I needed to get that structure coming.
No, it's a good balance. It's a good balance.
But yeah, if you can have structure but allow yourself the freedom to flow, then that's great. Structure is just there as a guideline. I think with any healing modality that you learn, there's usually, this is the protocol, you follow these steps, you go do this and you do this. But once you know the protocol and you've practiced the healing modality, whatever it is, a number of times, you can then almost like relax, because our subconscious can come in, because the conscious mind is now out, because conscious mind knows the steps and it goes like, okay, I'm bored with these steps. And then the subconscious can come through and intuition can come through. And then we can flow within that, but you've got your structure to fall back on.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Yeah. because I think often we, if you're quite into that like flow state, you just want to flow, and it can get a bit floaty. And again, like you say, you need something that's going to just, it's a bit of a grounding as well, to just
Yeah.
have a template of sort of,
Yes.
and then you can then move and create from that space.
Yeah, grounding, very, very important. I think that especially in, like when people get into spiritual development and spiritual work, they feel, they get a sense of that ecstasy, of that energy, and they go like, oh, I want to be here all day. And they forget to come back down and ground and anchor. And so they're constantly up there. But then you disconnect from the physical vehicle, or you can disconnect from just general flow of life. And what a lot of, and I've had so many students who I would say you need to ground. They go, no, 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 I don't want to. I don't want to lose this energy, because they associate grounding with disconnecting. So they believe that when they ground, they disconnect this connection that they've got to spirit, and they lose that until they reconnect again. But when we ground, we're actually pulling all of that energy into the physical body, into the vehicle. And then we need to actually take it a step further and feed it through the feet and out of the body. And I've had some students who go like, no, 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 I don't want to open my feet. I don't want to let go of this. I want to keep the energy. And you actually have to let it go out through the feet, because what it does, it starts, it will bend and come back over, and it actually forms like a torus field around you. So it circulates while you're taking more energy in. You don't really lose anything, because you've got your magnetic field. You've got your brain, you've got your heart and everything that create nice big magnetic fields and toroid fields. So that energy, when it escapes through the bottoms of your feet and the base chakra, that just folds back in, and it comes back into the mix again. So when you ground, you're allowing yourself to be anchored while you're receiving this energy, and you are releasing it without holding on to it, because we can't hold on to this forever. And then allow that to flow through.
Yeah. So, because that's an interesting one, and I just wanted to go into and how this ties in with kind of what's going on at the moment, where kind of we're seeing that there's a change and an evolution and ascension, and creating new earth, and we're transforming, and we're kind of also aware that there is this physical body, and it's not that we're like gonna just ascend out of the body, it's all coming into this.
It would be fabulous if you do.
So I'd love to hear your perspective on that, if you don't mind sharing.
I am a skeptic, pessimistic, open-minded optimist. So I tend to be, with anything, whether it's a healing modality or anything really, I'm a skeptic first and foremost. I question everything, because I want to question so that I can understand, and so that I can see that it really works. So I'm very happy to let go of skepticism once it's proven itself to me, like whatever the modality is or whatever it is. I'm also pessimistic, so I always believe that it's not really going to work. So that way I don't get my hopes up, and I can't get shattered if something doesn't work. So that's fine. But I'm also optimistic, knowing that there has to be something better, and it will come, and we're in the right place at the right time. So I can do that sort of duality flip of like being pessimistic and optimistic at the same time. And for years, I've been sort of waiting for the next moment, waiting for 2012. Yay, we're going to become, the aliens are going to come, they're going to come get us. And that didn't happen. And every year we've got these people going, oh, we've got this portal opening here, and we've got this coming over here, and we've got that coming. And initially it was like, yay, I'm ready for this, I'm game on for that. But every year it's the same thing, and it doesn't happen. And one year I actually sat down and went like, what is all of this about? Because we always get our hopes up for something, and then it doesn't happen, and then we crash down, but then we hope for the next one to come. And the message that came through is that we all are looking for the savior. We're looking for Jesus, we're looking for the UFOs, we're looking for the aliens, we're looking for the comet, we're looking for something that's going to take us away from where we are right now. And the waiting for the savior disempowers you. It does not keep you in a place of power. And for us to wake up, we need to take responsibility. We need to be able to own our shit. So we need to be able to go, okay, I did this, I need to fix this. And we need to take responsibility. It's like we can't lie down and snooze anymore. We've hit the snooze button for too long. We need to now wake up. We're not kids anymore. We're now adults and energetic adults over here. And we need to take responsibility and sort of work with this and be aware of all of that. And that also means not waiting for the savior. So I like the sort of the term that they use in Buddhism, or the story that they go, where they say, we can't prove that God exists. We don't know whether God exists. We know that suffering exists. So let's focus on the suffering and the hurt and the pain, and we clear that. And then once we've cleared all of that, then we can come back to thinking and worrying whether God exists or not. And I quite like that approach, because we're saying, like, here where we are right now, we need to wake up. No one's going to save us. I think this is our lesson. This is our experience here. There's no savior. We're not going to be saved. We need to say, okay, I need to get myself up from the mud, and I need to wipe myself down, and I need to start climbing the mountain again. And so when we start doing that, we start empowering ourselves, and we learn that we can do it for ourselves. And when we don't need a savior anymore, then when the savior comes, we can embrace him or her openly and fully as equals, or as close to equals. But if we're going to be groveling down here in the bottom of the sand and in the mud, saying, oh, just please help me, I don't think it's going to happen. We need to really dust ourselves off and do it for ourselves. Really, like, claim our power, realize who we are, realize that we are all sparks of God, or source, or creator, creatrix, whatever you want to call that. We need to own that and live that. And then when we don't need the savior, then the savior can come gladly, and we'll be fine with that. We're not going to learn anything if we just wait if the savior comes and saves us. It happened when he died on the cross, if he did that. So there's been many saviors before, and that message doesn't sink in. So it's time for us to save ourselves. And the same with the light workers, going like, we need to wake everybody up. We need to wake everybody up. I think that we're at a time where people need to start waking themselves up, because as light workers for many years, our job has been to wake people up, to shine the light, to carry thousands of people on our back, climbing these ladders. And I'd say about 2015, 2017, around there, I started getting the clear message that, you know what, time for carrying other people is over. People need to carry themselves now. We've lifted them as high as we possibly could. Now it's up to them to climb the ladders. And so our loads as light workers are actually a lot lighter in a way, but our focus needs to come back to ourselves. Yes, we're still there to help others, but our job is not really to carry them while they're sleeping. It's their time to now wake up. So we can instruct them, we can guide them, we can help them to wake up, but they need to also carry their own load. So we're really getting into a place where people need to take responsibility for themselves. So even if they come to you for healing, our job is to really educate the client and get them into a place of power where they can do it for themselves. So even in my healing practice, I always jokingly say, I don't marry my clients, meaning they come, we look at your problems, we help you sort it out, but through the process of us helping you sort it out, and we also give you tools and ways to do it for yourself, and then you get to a place where you can do it on your own, and you actually don't need me anymore. My best practice would be when no one needs me, which is it's a flip side to what a lot of healers would say, where they go, no, I'll die if no one wants to come to me for healing. For me, it is, my practice will be great when no one wants to come back, because it means they are all empowered and they can do it for themselves. Then I know my job is done.
I really like that.
So, yeah.
It's empowering, isn't it? And I think there is a saying now that is that, you know, the age of the guru is dead. You know, that it is about everyone. And I have sort of seen that it's like everyone, you know, is a master in their own right, but it's about owning that within yourself. And so yeah, there's not so much just going to be one singular person. Yeah.
I mean, we are all individual little sparks of creation, each of us with our own unique little sparkles and glitters and lights and colors. And so we can't all be the same. And the same goes for healing modalities. Not one healing modality is going to fit everyone. That's why there are so many of them. And why a client can come and you go, oh, you need this treatment, while the next one comes, you go, no, you need this treatment. So our treatments also needs to line up with the client. And if you can read into the energy of the client, you know what to do. And if you don't know, you can dowse or something. There's always ways to do that. But in the same thing, when you learn a healing modality, I believe very strongly that you have to make it your own. And it's not all healing modalities allow for that freedom to make it your own, but I think that with anything, we can do it. If you followed the protocols and you followed the steps and you've anchored and really made this very strong foundation of that modality, like follow it to the book. And then once you know it and you can do it off by heart, backwards, inside out, and in your sleep, then you can say, okay, I would like to tweak this. And there's a reason why you will tweak it. Or I want to shift this, or I want to move that, or I want to add this in. Because you have to do that to make it your own. So, I mean, if you learn Reiki, for example, the first level, they teach you 12 hand positions and go, these are the hand positions. And it's almost taught you like, this is like the Bible. Do not veer away from the 12 hand positions. But it's not true. The 12 hand positions were actually developed by Dr. Hayashi because he did not have the intuition or the intuitive strength of Usui, who worked intuitively. Usui worked intuitively wherever he wanted to go. Hayashi needed structure. So he said, okay, position 1, position 2, position 3, position 4, and then taught that to everyone because he didn't have the intuition to actually move. But there's nothing stopping anyone from putting their hands anywhere on a person when you do Reiki. So it's just a little protocol. It's just a little training wheel where the training wheels can be dropped. And that's with any healing modality or anything really, whether it's light language or any other system as well. We need our training wheels in the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. Because you've got your soul plan, and then you even have adapted that, haven't you, to with light language?
Yes, so I've done combinations where I combine numerology and soul plan, and then make these massive mandalas for people with light language and soul plan, and then numerology as well. But I think that for me, I mean, after 30 years of studying, like literally nonstop, I have so many modalities where a lot of the modalities are sort of bleeding into each other, and hopefully it's going to coalesce and form something completely new that's just like I can almost like give only one treatment and that's it. But in my experience, we all need something different. So the nice thing is that I've got so many different tools to fall back on. So if I get stuck with anything, or if something interesting client comes along, whether it's a possession or a entity that needs to be removed, or whether it's just a hole in the auric field, I will have the tools to be able to work with that.
Yeah.
So I would say never stop learning.
Yeah, because it's like we're both, aren't we? And that's what we've come here on Earth to do as well. I feel like that. I'm like, what can I do? I want to do everything. Just want to like throw myself into all sorts of experiences because it's like I'm here to do it. So might as
Exactly,
well
we may
make the
as well
most
just
of
throw
this
ourselves
time.
in. Yeah, throw yourself completely into it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've done many courses where I sort of do the course and I think, oh, this is going to be amazing. I do the course and go, I don't like this. I don't like the energy of it. I don't like the way it's put together, or the whole thing's just a flop and it doesn't work. And I just go, okay, chuck. I don't connect with you. Chuck. I don't even need the certificate. Chuck. So anything that, for me, if a healing modality does not prove itself along the way, I chuck it out. So I've spent some time, I spent some money, so what?
Yeah.
It's not going to work. I'm not going to put it on my list just because I spent money on the course. So for me, anything that I've got on my website, anything that I offer is things that I believe in, things that that's proven itself through time, and that I know I can do, and that I enjoy doing.
Yeah, it's good to have that just being not attached to things or doing things for the sake of what maybe that everybody's craving at the moment, the current
Right.
trend.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
you get that. You get people who get very attached to something. And I've seen that with some healing modalities where the modality itself becomes almost like a bit of a cult, where people like worship the person, the guru who developed the system. And even if the shit hits the fan, there's no other way to put this, the devotees stay there following the guru, even though they question what's going on. They go like, we don't understand this, everything's collapsing, but no, but this is amazing. And it's like they're so attached to the system and so attached to the guru that they actually can't look at this and go objectively and look at this and say, you know what, actually he is like acting like a guru and he's just human as well. And I connect with the system, but I don't necessarily have to connect with him anymore. And I'm just going to remove myself and carry on with my work. That happens everywhere, whether it's more mundane work or whether it's spiritual work. We see it everywhere.
Yeah. And
attachment, we need to let go of things.
yeah, and there's a real like needing of a balance, because I think everyone is craving community, connection, and there's this whole thing of like oneness and like unity consciousness. But yeah, there is still that need for individuality and within that, and not to get attached to the sort of
For me, unity consciousness is just walking with the awareness to know that we are all one. We're all part of something bigger. Doesn't mean I have to like you. Doesn't mean I have to agree with you. But I understand that we are all part of one big system. And so if we look at our body, I'm sure the gallbladder cells are not going to necessarily like the kidney cells or the brain cells. They may have a little bit of an argument every now and again with each other, or a disagreement, but they're all part of one system. So they all work together and they don't necessarily have to agree with each other, and they don't necessarily have to like each other. And so I think this whole story of, oh, we all one and we must just all send love and light and all of that, I think that we don't always have to do that. There's certain people I don't like. Looking at the world today, where we are with what's going on in the world, there's quite a few people that I can think of that I don't really like. It doesn't mean that I have to agree with them. It doesn't mean that I have to do what they say. But I understand that they are also part of the system, of this bigger system that we belong to. And I understand that whatever they're doing to the rest of the world, they're doing to themselves as well. And so whatever I do to myself, I also do to other people. So I've got that consciousness and awareness, but I think that sometimes we need to, like, if you don't like someone, just embrace that and just accept it. Don't go and say, well, I don't like this person, but I'm sending them love and light. Because what's your intention with sending them love and light? Are you trying to make yourself feel better? Are you trying to prove that you're better than they, or what is it? And so it's actually okay to not like someone. Don't need to have a reason, but you don't have to be nasty about it. But yeah, love and lights, I think that it has its time and its place, but sometimes we need to, like, if something needs to have his throat slit, then that also needs to happen. That sounds evil for a vegetarian. But yeah, no, I think that love and light doesn't always fix everything. I mean, with me in my work doing aura healing, a lot of times I work with entities, I work with demons, I work with attachments, I work with all kinds of what other people would say scary things. For me, I feel quite comfortable in that world, but I think other people would run for the hills screaming if they have to see some of the things that come through the door. And sometimes you've got to treat the entity as like a lost child, and sometimes you've got to treat the entity with a little bit more of a harsh energy. And so if you know what you're doing and you know who the different entities are and how to approach them, then you can work with them in an appropriate manner. So in some cases we have to really be harsh with removing an entity, and other times we can be very gentle and very compassionate, even though they may appear to be evil. And I recently had a case like that where a person went for an entity removal. It ended disastrously with the people who worked with her. The people went running for the hills. They actually had a group of people working on her, and they all scattered. And when she came, it was alien, reptile alien that was attached. And it was a youngster. He actually didn't know how he got there. There was an accident where he came from. And he was actually very, very frightened. And so with the people almost like attacking him, he attacked back. And spirit energies are a lot stronger than us. They're going to slap you sideways. And so my approach to remove and work with this entity was a very gentle and compassionate and soft and nurturing type energy. So in this case, I couldn't do something harsh or whatever. So yeah, love and light doesn't always work, but sometimes it does.
Yeah, it's just going back to the intuition, going with what
Intuition, always intuition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think you've got to meet the moment as it arrives. We sometimes, especially when it comes to healing work, sometimes, especially when people start out, they want to almost like plan the session. They want to see they want to know what's going to come, and we don't know that. So for me, I don't even think about the client until the client walks through the door, because then it presents itself.
Yeah, that's a good perspective. And just one last thing that just keeps, I keep hearing, DNA activation. Like, what's your perception of this?
Well, I do DNA activation, so for me, I've done DNA analysis courses, so like the physical DNA, like of our physical body. I do a sort of epigenetic DNA activation, which is more like working with epigenetics and it's kinesiology. And then I've gone the route of doing like DNA, like 13-strand DNA activation, also in kinesiology approach. And then I also do sort of more ritualistic, magical approach, almost, if you can call it that, of DNA activation, which is purely energetic. And I use all of the different systems. In fact, the DNA analysis, I don't use that much because I find it fascinating, but the tests itself, the lab tests are very expensive, and I've got a slight aversion to swabs going up the mouth and in the nose for obvious reasons. From where we are, so I've sort of the DNA activation, I've sort of just shifted off to the side, but I do find it fascinating, and I love like really scratching into the genetics. So from an epigenetic standpoint, the premise is that information is passed on from your parents to you, and that could be good or bad. So you could have talents or challenges that's there. And so when a challenge arises, it may be somewhere locked in the DNA. And so we've got techniques that we can release the stresses around that, so that we can release the flow and get the energy to flow properly within the system. So that's that approach. With a 13-strand DNA activation, it is about tapping into where an issue lies. We actually go right into which chromosome, which gene, everything. We literally find the address within the genetic codes of where the issue sits. And then we do emotional and energetic clearing around that, also working with commands and things like that. And then the energetic approach is working on an energetic level, and that's a 22-strand DNA activation. So that works purely energetic, and it's sort of like an aura healing session on steroids, because we do clean the auric field and then we go in and do the activation itself. From a physical helix perspective, I mean, to even comprehend that is like crazy, beyond measure, because within every single cell we have DNA, and in the nucleus of the cell, that DNA is wrapped up. So I don't know if you know what they look like, the chromosomes. They look like these little X's.
Yeah.
So within that, you've got like a spiral of this DNA sitting. And if you had to unravel that into one long strand, it's going to be 1.5 meters long. That's one little strand is 1.5 meters long of data. And every single one of your trillion cells have one of those little, well, more than one of those little strands in the nucleus. And I can't actually wrap my mind around that. So for us to believe that there's only one little helix with 2 strands, when we can see that, I mean, if we take the veins out of our body and string them together and make a string from that, we can wrap it once around the planet. That's one person's veins.
Wow.
Our bodies contain so much
I
that
know,
we
yeah.
don't know about yet.
Mm.
And so if you look at that DNA strand, yes, we may only perceive 2 of those helixes, but the thing is that if we look at the visible spectrum is a small little section within the vibrational spectrum. Sound is another section. Gamma rays, radiation, other radiation, we can't see those. It doesn't mean that they're not there. And so the same with our DNA, we've got 2 physical strands that's on a physical level, but there are other strands that also coils around, and they're on different frequencies that's not visible to us or to the machines that we currently have.
Mm.
So by doing DNA activation, we're working on those invisible strands as well. In fact, there are some tests that have come back with people with 4 strands and even 6 strands of DNA that's been physically picked up by science already. And interestingly enough, there was research that they recently did was they found that people with near-death experiences, a lot of them actually come back. They had 2 strands of DNA before, and then afterwards they've got 6 strands or something weird. So there are some developments, there's some new things coming up about DNA and about activating them and all of that. So yeah, I think watch the space.
Yeah, definitely. Because I do feel that, I wonder whether there'd be studies with people who, are particularly more intuitive or, claim to have spiritual gifts like light
Sure, that will
language.
come out as well. And I think that light language, for me, I see light language as a little step up to our next phase. Our next phase would be where we speak and communicate with telepathy. And I think that that's a step up. It's just an intermediary step. So I don't think that light language, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that light language is a temporary thing that takes us from where we are right now to where we need to go. Because at the moment, our language, we work with agreed upon words that sit in a specific position that means a specific thing. And we all have to agree on that. With light language, it sort of opens up to that freedom of one little sound that you utter could mean so much more. And it's loaded with feelings and emotions and colors and energy. So every single sound that we make and how we make it and when we make it and whatever gesture goes with that creates a wave in the frequencies that anybody can tap into. And it breaks all of the rules of traditional language and grammar. And once we start working more with light language, we will learn how to use our heart to interpret and translate that light language, because that's really where we translate it from the heart space. And once we can tune into that, then later on we're going to get to a place where we don't even need the physical light language as a sound in order to transmit our feeling to another or our thoughts to another. So I think that for me personally, I think light language is a step up. It's an intermediary step towards full telepathy and using our mind on a new level, and are using our hearts on a different level as well.
Yeah, really tuning into that space and understanding how the mechanism and how it works.
Yeah, and we don't necessarily need to. A lot of people want to know, like, especially when they see light language written or even hear it spoken, they go like, what does it mean? What's a translation? And the thing is that we can't really give a translation because it's so loaded with information. I mean, if you take a symbol, like let's say you take the yin yang symbol, for example, very simple, black, white, 2 dots, little curvy line. If you had to really analyze what that symbol means, you can write a big book about that, about one little symbol. That's actually, that symbol fascinates me as well. I mean, the yin yang symbol, it's so simple and yet it's so loaded with information. And so with light language, the same thing. Every single symbol that we create, no matter how simple it is loaded with information, emotion, energy, light. There's just lots happening there. Can't translate that into just a few words or sentence. So we need to tap into that and feel it.
Yeah, gotta tune in to
Yeah.
what it is for giving us individually.
Mm.
Yeah. So with that, on that note, if you feel called to share a transmission, I think it'd be a beautiful one to.
Anything that you can think of.
Whatever is divinely meant for this now.
I'll have to tune into that one. Let's see, perhaps we can do let's see what comes through. Maybe do an attunement or a connection with guides. I'm sure everybody has their own guides. Perhaps just a little nod to your guide to so that you're ready to listen in a new way or something.
Yeah, that sounds lovely.
Okay, so let's see what comes through. So close your eyes and take a few slow, deep breaths. Center yourself and become aware of your surrounding. Don't judge it. Don't try to change it. Just observe. Be aware of the sounds around, whether it's dogs or traffic or whatever. Just allow that to wash over the space. And know that every sound that you hear around is going to relax you more. And so with every sound you hear, allow yourself to relax deeper and deeper. Allow your breathing to drop down lower into the belly, relaxing the shoulders and the body. Relax your jaw. And allow yourself to drop into your heart space. Sense and feel the energy in your heart. Don't judge it, don't try to change it, just observe. And then imagine that you're sending a connection from your heart out to the hearts of everybody who's listening in on this podcast. Forming a web or a network all across the world. And from your heart, send a connection down into the heart of the earth, anchoring the energies. And as we anchor into the center of the earth, you may find that there's a bright light streaming up along that connection and into your body, filling your body with this beautiful earth energy. And then from your heart, send a connection up to the all that is, to Source, Creator, God, whatever is appropriate for you. And again, noticing a bright light streaming down along that connection and into your body. Now set the intention that you want to send a connection to your guide, to your main guide, the one that's working closely with you right now. It's going to be just a quick little shout out, just a little hello, a way to strengthen our connection with our guide. And place both hands onto your heart. And allow that connection to send out to your main guide. Tura sanekia satukia. Te shanekia ma'akai saniya. Sura sanashinikia kala. Tere ineki stikia. Shuma nana. Asunekia rasata. Tushenekia. Asanekia. Release the hands from the heart. Palms up. Palms facing up to the heaven. Sanakiakara sanakias. Sana sunekiakama. Tura sanakiakana. Ara nasanawe. Anawena kayaka. Tara sanashena. Ama anayi. Tara sanakwa. Tushenekia anakia. Mashunekea ana. Ta anasiya tuma aye. Placing one hand on your third eye and one hand back onto the heart space. Suminikia rasinikia sitkia lana. Taranesikia tutune. Terenesikia katu turusinikia. Paranakila nikia sitkia lakua. Tarasinikia kakuneke. Kilakinikia sitkia. Turanasinikia panakaya. Tarasanakia ma'u. Turu sunukia. Ta shunamai. Tara anakia a. And then both hands onto the heart. In your own words, invite your guide into your heart. Invite your guide to spend more time with you. Invite your guide to be a little bit clearer, perhaps speak a little bit louder, so that you can hear more clearly and see more clearly. Manunikia, Tamaniakia su, Sumaneyakayana, Tanayakiaka, Arumasiakiasu, Tuma, Tuma, Tuma. Release both hands. Rest them on your lap or wherever it's comfortable. Becoming aware of all the connections you formed to the earth, to each other, to all that is, and to your guide. And we gently and easily release all of those connections. Coming back into this space and into this time, perhaps with your guide a little bit closer. And when you're ready, plant your feet firmly into the ground, just to ground the energies. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Wow, your aura is so bright right now.
Oh, thank you, Markus.
Welcome.
I'm sure everybody has absolutely enjoyed spending time with you and all of the beautiful wisdom that you share. And so everything will be under this description, so you can go and find Markus through that. But if there's anything that you want to particularly share, any offerings, would you like to just mention them?
Yeah, I think the best way to get hold of me is just on my website or Instagram. So I've got Instagram is Starseed.Lightcodes. I always get confused between the two. And then I've got Starseed-Lightcodes.com. That's the website. So yeah, I think that's best thing to do is if people connect with my energy, they connect with who I am, then they can scroll through and have a look at what I have to offer, and yeah, feel free to contact. And then we can always take it from there. I also do personalized light codes. So you have mentioned about the numerology one, but I do, like, if someone has something specific that they want to bring into their lives, we can have a meeting and can discuss what energy it is that you want to bring through, and then I channel a light code for that person, and I send you a high resolution file that you can then print on whatever you want to print. So I've got one client who printed it on, he printed his codes on pillowcases, on curtains, on everything. He had a poster done and everything. And he just sent me a photo of his room and his light code is just everywhere. So yeah, once you put your high res file, you can do with it whatever you want to, and you can meditate with it. So it's actually really powerful to if you've got a sort of, I would say if you've got a long-term goal or something that you want to work with, you can do for short term, but like I would say go for the long-term goals and like really look at what is it that you want to bring into your life. And then just remember that I had one little symbol for 10 years and that one symbol did a lot.
Yeah.
So even though it was a simple symbol, it was actually quite potent. So yeah, if you do a complex light code, it can be.
It's gonna do things.
it'll definitely do things. Things definitely shift. I mean, it's the same with the soul plan. You do that reading, and it's after the reading, it's almost like the doors open and things just start flooding and flushing through.
Yeah.
So sometimes can be a little bit overwhelming, but
Yeah.
I guess that's why we're here. We're here for the ride.
Like me, I had one only on Monday, so I'm still in a bit of a process thing. Like I can feel it in my body. It's all going on. So yeah, you're wonderful, and I'm really pleased that you've taken the time to be here and share your story and your wisdom today. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone would like to reach out, do so, and comment and share your what you've experienced from being here, even on the podcast as well. We'd love to see what you have to say, and sending everyone a love, and we'll see you next Friday. Bye for now, everyone.
Bye.